What a difference a safety car makes. What looked like was going to be a procession for Max Verstappen around the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve turned into an all-out intense battle for the final 16 laps or so, as the Dutchman held off Carlos Sainz to take yet another race victory of the 2022 season. But there was plenty going on in this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix, so sit back, relax, as here at GPFans we bring you a recap of all of the action that took place on Sunday. Just hit subscribe, stick with us for the whole of the 2022 season for all the breaking news and fallout from the biggest events in Formula 1. Now, let's get into our recap of Canada 2022. If there was any worry about Fernando Alonso making a move into the opening corner, that was dispelled with Max Verstappen's Red Bull pulling away from the line almost brilliantly, leaving Alonso in the Red Bull's dust. Further back, around turn 3 on the opening lap, Lewis Hamilton made contact with Kevin Magnussen, forcing the Haas to pit on lap 7 with a damaged wing, despite the driver trying to press on. A frustrating day for Haas, and it would get a little worse as well. Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari was quickly past Alonso too, but tyre graining prevented him from closing on Verstappen or really pulling clear of the Alpine initially. George Russell too quickly moved through the pack up to 5th behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez was making moves through the heart of the field, but on lap 8, Red Bull's reliability issues reared their ugly head again. A problem with an old gearbox in the Mexican driver's RB18 forced him to pull to the side of the road, something that Perez later would note that the team would have to stay on top of to prevent issues like that recurring again. With Perez stranded, it led to a virtual safety car coming out. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton took the chance to pit at the end of lap 9, putting them in 3rd and 6th respectively, with Verstappen quickly back past Alonso and Hamilton through Esteban Ocon returning to 5th. Lap 20 saw a tumbling Mick Schumacher pull to the side of the road with a mechanical problem, triggering a host of pit stops in the middle of the order. A slow stop for Danny Ricciardo hindering a stacked Lando Norris in the pit garage for McLaren, heaping more woes on the young British drivers' weekend. Carlos Sainz was able to get in and back out of the pits from 1st, back in front of Lewis Hamilton, the Ferrari driver in 3rd, while Alonso was still staying out in the Alpine, despite being on used mediums. George Russell too could pit in the virtual safety car and get out on fresh tyres behind his teammate. Alonso was caught by his fellow countryman on lap 23 when racing resumed, as Sainz took 2nd, with Hamilton looking to do the same successfully a lap later. Lap 30 and further back, Charles Leclerc was struggling for grip, up into 6th but in an Alpine sandwich, with Ocon ahead and Alonso behind after the Spaniard had finally come into the pits. The Scuderia driver was frustrated at his inability to pass the Frenchman. Lap 42 and the Ferrari finally pitted for some mediums, his first stop of the race, but a slow stop with the left rear caused him to drop back to 12th in the back of a DRS train headed by 8th place Lance Stroll as he started to once again cut through the field. A lap later, the Red Bull of Verstappen had come in for fresh rubber, coming out just behind Lewis Hamilton. The Red Bull driver stuck behind the Mercedes, much to the Dutchman's frustration with Carlos Sainz out in the lead, although he wasn't behind Hamilton for too long. Just under a lap it took for the Red Bull driver to once more get into 2nd and try and close on the leader. Lap 49 and things got really interesting. Yuki Tsunoda running off at the first turn directly after pitting, causing a safety car to come out, allowing Carlos Sainz to enter the pits and get fresh rubber like many others, although the Spaniard did lose the lead as he took the fresh tyres behind Verstappen as everybody was bunched behind the safety car. At the start of lap 55, racing returned with Verstappen on older tyres to Sainz, but similar at least to the Mercedes duo in 3rd and 4th behind them. But the championship leader had the pace initially to pull away, almost but not quite able to break that DRS 1 second gap. Further back, with 10 laps to go, Charles Leclerc was past the 2 Alpines and up into 5th, continuing his excellent work from the back of the grid. But the battle up front was what everybody was focusing on. Sainz on lap 62, back to just over a second from the leader as Verstappen turned up the heat and the intensity, but Sainz responded with a fastest lap of his own. The penultimate lap was about as close as the Spanish Ferrari driver would come to Verstappen, who eventually eked out about a second gap ahead of the Scuderia car for the majority of the final lap, taking the race victory in a far tougher Grand Prix than he and perhaps many had expected about halfway through. The safety car didn't help, said the Dutch driver after the race. I was giving it everything I had. Of course, Carlos was doing the same. Following is tricky round here, but I could see he was pushing, charging, pushing. But of course, naturally, when you're on the DRS, it's a bit easier to charge. So yeah, the last few laps were a lot of fun. I think I would have preferred attacking instead of defending, but luckily it worked out. As for his former Toro Rosso teammate Carlos Sainz, well, he gave it everything, saying after the race, I was pushing flat out. I wasn't leaving any inch to the walls and the braking. I was pushing everything with the battery. I tried everything, but today we just didn't have enough pace delta to get him close enough in the hairpin to then get him out of line into the chicane. So Verstappen wins again, extending his lead at the top of the Drivers' Championship with a big confidence boost for Carlos Sainz with his second place finish. The Mercedes duo of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, third and fourth on a good Sunday for them. Charles Leclerc had a fine drive from the back of the grid to finish fifth, with the Alpines of Ocon and Alonso sixth and seventh, and the Alfa Romeos of Bottas and Zhou Guanyu eighth and ninth in an impressive outing for them. Hometown hero Lance Stroll will be very pleased as he rounded out the top 10 in the points. So who was your driver of the day in Canada? Was it Lance Stroll, the hometown boy, able to get in the points once more in a very impressive run for the Aston Martin driver? Or perhaps Charles Leclerc coming from all the way at the back of the grid to finish fifth? Or even his teammate Carlos Sainz, a big second place finish for him and an impressive push on Max Verstappen, who was also phenomenal in his defending against the Ferrari driver. Or even the two Mercedes as well. A disappointing Friday turning into a fine Sunday for the Silver Arrows. Let us know in the comments section below in our Discord discussion, a link to that in the description down below. And of course, hit subscribe to follow us here at GPFans on the YouTube channel and gpfans.com for all the breaking news and the fallout from the Canadian Grand Prix.